There was blood on my keyboard the morning it all began. Not metaphorical, actual blood. I'd split my knuckle on the edge of a cheap desk drawer while reaching for a Post-it because corporate decided ergonomic upgrades were non-essential. I sat there, middle finger wrapped in a Starbucks napkin, listening to the slow hiss of my dual monitors booting up, when the first clue hit me. Every single admin credential I'd updated the night before had been rolled back. No ticket, no approval, no trace. It was like someone walked through my locked apartment while I slept and folded my underwear wrong on purpose. That's the part no one understands. Cyber sabotage doesn't always come with flashing red alerts or Russian ips. Sometimes it's just a feeling that your houseplant's been watered by the wrong hand. I opened Slack. A message from Lisa in HR. Hey, just checking if your out of office is still on. Couldn't find your updated deployment notes for the Q3 overview. Let us know, thanks. Smiling face with smiling eyes. I hadn't set an out of office. That's when the second thing hit me. The Q3 overview I'd spent 60 nights writing was gone. Replaced with a version from 3 weeks ago, back when Jeff, our VP of Hot Air and Havoc, had insisted I trim the cybersecurity spend by at least 30% to appease shareholders. Funny thing about Jeff, he wore loafers without socks, once called a firewall just an expensive pop-up blocker, and claimed to speak Java because his daughter took AP Computer Science. At 9:12 a.m., I was still bleeding when the invite dropped. Q3 all-hands strategy call mandatory cameras on, hosted by Jeff. I clicked into the meeting just in time to hear him say it. Frankly, most of what she does is replaceable. Got AI for half of it now. He smirked like a used car dealer who just sold a minivan with 3 blown airbags. My camera was on. I smiled, nodded, muted myself. But something inside me, something sharp and long dormant, unmuted. Because 3 facts came crashing into place. Someone had accessed my account at 2:47 a.m. from a location pinging 5 states away. That someone replaced my Q3 report with Jeff's neutered draft, one that conveniently positioned him as the hero who cut costs. And Lisa from HR? She wasn't checking in, she was laying a paper trail. The call kept droning. I opened Terminal. I still had backdoor access to our sandbox environment. Jeff had made me strip the audit logs for agility. Nobody would know if I peeked or rearranged. One more thing, a week before, I'd quietly installed a kill switch buried so deep in the server cluster it looked like legacy junk code. Harmless, invisible, untraceable, unless you knew what you were looking at. And Jeff had no damn clue what I'd buried beneath his kingdom. At exactly 10:03 a.m., Jeff used the phrase proactive vulnerability redirection, which, translated from boardroom bullshit, meant we're ignoring every red flag until something actually explodes. I watched him speak like he was doing stand-up at a tech conference. Hands waving, voice smooth, buzzwords flowing like boxed wine at a company picnic. Zero trust architecture, AI augmentation, streamlined redundancy, all strung together with the confidence of a man who thinks Git is short for get it done. But behind his PowerPoint smile, I saw the truth. He wasn't just phasing me out. He was stealing my work, piece by piece. 3 days earlier, I'd caught a phantom login trying to access my private project repo, codenamed Icarus. It was our experimental server stabilization framework. Self-healing, scalable, the kind of architecture that could land a job at DARPA or melt a hedge fund if you flipped it inside out. It was my code, my sweat, my insomnia. And Jeff had mentioned Project Icarus to the CFO on a golf call. Only knew because I pulled the voice logs off our test call routing system, something he didn't even realize auto-recorded. He wasn't just trying to take credit. He was preparing to sell it. Internally first, likely under a renamed innovation initiative. Then maybe to an outside firm. One of those shadowy advisory groups with initials instead of names and teeth instead of contracts. And I was supposed to go quietly, minimize the Zoom call, and open the backdoor node I'd bookmarked. Sisyphus localhost /echo 13. No one else had access, not even the dev team. It was my playground, my sandbox, and Jeff had just given me permission, publicly, to light it all on fire. First step, I issued a silent echo ping to our secondary server rack in Des Moines. If it bounced back with a 200 code, it meant no one had altered the redundancy protocols yet. It bounced. I smiled. Second step, initiate Honeytrap protocol. See, I'd built a dummy admin panel months ago, just in case someone tried poking around where they didn't belong. It looked legit. All the bells and whistles. It even updated in real time with fake logs and false successes. Jeff had accessed it twice this week. He didn't realize the entire panel was feeding me his keystrokes. Every export, every password attempt, every search query, including this morning's entry, disable M. Tran user privileges before Friday merge Icarus documentation with new VP packet, how to delete git commit history remotely. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took another sip of my cold gas station coffee, opened my notepad, and wrote one sentence. He wants war. He'll get a lesson in extinction, because here's the thing about being replaceable. They only say that when they're standing on the scaffolding you built. Scaffolding shakes when you kick just the right bolt. I clicked Run Test Suite. The countdown had begun. By noon, I had a decision to make: burn the kingdom now or make him crown me first. The first would be fast, satisfying in a primal, scorched earth way. Flip the switch, erase his precious server mirrors, corrupt the redundancy backup he didn't even know was fake, and watch the quarterly earnings call disintegrate mid-slide. But the second would taste better. Let him walk into the boardroom thinking he's Prometheus with fire in his fist, and then snatch the torch right as he lights his own pants on fire. So I waited, played possum, even sent a Slack message that said, "Great insights on today's call, Jeff. Excited to align on Icarus rollout." He replied with a thumbs-up emoji and the word synergy. I nearly vomited. At 12:37 p.m., I got the second clue. Forwarded calendar invite. From someone I didn't know. Subject: Private Briefing Strategic Transition Plan Attendees. Jeff Carrington, CFO, External Counsel, New VP Infrastructure, TBD. I wasn't on the list, but I was still running silent scripts in the background of their calendar platform. A little leftover debug code from my days fixing their botched Exchange to Google migration sent anonymized copies of all internal invites to a dummy archive folder. That invite told me three things. Jeff was planning a full infrastructure reorg without consulting engineering. Legal was in on it, which meant NDAs were likely drafted and severance talks already scheduled. New VP Infrastructure, TBD, meant I was already out. They just hadn't told me yet. And then, the wild card. At 1:14 p.m., I got a DM from a burner LinkedIn account. No picture, no name, just a message. "You don't know me, but I know what he's doing. You built Icarus. I have proof. We need to talk. Tonight. 9 p.m. Same rooftop where you fixed the signal repeater in 21. Whoever it was knew too much. That repeater fix wasn't in any ticketing system. I did it during a building-wide outage, crawling through ceiling panels on a Sunday with a headlamp and duct tape because Jeff had refused to hire another infrastructure lead. I hadn't told anyone I did it, which meant this wasn't a colleague. This was someone watching from the shadows, an ally or a trap. Either way, it changed everything. So I changed my strategy. Instead of launching Icarus Retaliation, I launched Project Medusa, decoy operation that simulates unauthorized access and triggers automatic security audits. The kind that overloads compliance with noise and sends Jeff scrambling for answers he'll never find. By 3:00 p.m., Legal was pinging me. "Hi, Michelle, we're seeing unusual activity on the East Coast servers. Can you confirm if this is scheduled maintenance?" I replied, "Not from me. Might want to check with Jeff. He's leading in for transition now, right?" Silence. And a follow-up ping, this time from Jeff. "Michelle, can you hop on a quick call?" I ignored it. Let him marinate. Instead, I booked a lift to the rooftop. I didn't know who was waiting, didn't know what proof they had. But I did know one thing: if they really had the goods on Jeff, then tonight wasn't about taking my job back. It was about taking his. The rooftop was colder than I remembered, and off the Hudson always cuts sharper when you're standing on the edge of something irreversible. I got there 5 minutes early. Habit. Same rust-stained door, same broken motion light flickering like a dying apology. Last time I stood up here, I was wiring a makeshift repeater node to boost our busted conference signal. It was either that, or let our CEO pitch to Goldman Sachs with buffering every 3 seconds. No one thanked me, of course. Jeff got promoted that quarter. Now I waited, gloved hand in my coat pocket, thumb resting on the encrypted USB drive like a trigger. At 9:02, the door creaked open. She stepped out. Not a he, a she. A little older than me, maybe early 50s, sharp-lined suit, silver hair tied back like she could strangle someone with it. No name, no introduction. Just handed me a folder. Inside, screen captures, logs, a Slack export. One chat thread burned into my brain. Jeff Carrington. Stripper get access once VP offers signed Jeff Carrington. I'll spin the narrative, maybe burnout. She's been off lately anyway, Jeff Carrington. BTWPLS scrub her name off the Icarus white paper. Legal says to say team-driven partner Intel Edge Group. Copy that. NDA signed on our end. Wire clears Friday. I looked up. Who the hell are you? She smirked. Call me the ghost of layoffs past. Apparently, Jeff had tried this stunt before. Twice. Different departments, different women. Quiet oustings, asset theft buried under jargon. One sued, one vanished. This woman, she dug in, got pushed out anyway. But she didn't leave empty-handed. She built her own quiet network of ex-employees, temp contractors, even a junior recruiter with a grudge and access to resume logs. They called themselves the Condemned Q. Cute. Now she had a full dossier on Jeff's side dealings. Not just Icarus. 3 other internal projects sold or licensed under the table through shell firms. Why now? I asked. Because you're the first one who didn't fold. You smiled on that call. That kind of rage is rare. She handed me a burner phone. Tomorrow, Jeff's pitching Icarus to the board. Room 28E, 11 o'clock a.m. Walk in. Plug this into the HDMI. Sit down and shut up. I raised an eyebrow. What's on it? She smiled, wolfish. Your real report with version history. Metadata, authorship tags, and a watermark traceable to your machine. Let's make sure the board knows who really built the Ark before he tries to sail it. I pocketed the phone. Back in the lift, heart jackhammering, I watched the city blur past. Every light felt like a countdown. Tomorrow wasn't just revenge. It was execution by exposure. By morning, office was humming like a hornet nest. Too many suits, too many smiles, and not nearly enough caffeine to mask the rot. Jeff strutted through the lobby like he'd already won. Blue blazer, no tie, custom leather folio tucked under one arm like a damn Oscar. I followed 20 feet behind, ignored by design. His assistant barely looked at me, which was new. She usually asked for password resets like she was hailing a cab. The 28th floor was cordoned off, not physically, but socially. You could feel it, the hush, the fake laughter, the interns standing too straight. Board meetings always do that, like everyone suddenly forgot they were on a sinking cruise ship and decided to put on their Sunday best for the iceberg. I walked into 28E with 5 minutes to spare, phone in one hand, the USB drive in the other, thumb resting over the casing like it was a detonator. The boardroom was glass-walled, sleek, too clean, like a hospital for dying morals. 11 chairs filled, 12 mics live. Jeff stood at the head, already mid-spiel, a revolutionary infrastructure pivot, reducing overhead by 41% and positioning us for scalable international deployment. He saw me. Didn't flinch, didn't pause, just smiled like a cat noticing the mouse brought snacks. Michelle, he said smoothly, didn't expect you this early. I didn't sit. I walked to the console, plugged in the phone. Screen flickered, not his slides. Instead, the real Q3 report, my layout, my risk charts, my name right there on the footer, Michelle Tran, lead architect. One board member squinted. Wait, this isn't what Jeff sent us yesterday. Another leaned forward. Why does the version history go back 6 months? Jeff said this was new work. Jeff stepped forward, hand half raised like he was calming a spooked horse. There must be some confusion. Michelle was part of the early ideation, sure, but the finalized infrastructure plan, I tapped the mic, was stripped, whitewashed, and rebranded under your name. After you accessed my private dev repo without authorization, after you removed my credentials, after you told legal I was burning out. Silence. One of the legal advisors in the corner, not bored, just a compliance leech, looked up like someone had just mentioned asbestos in the drywall. I kept going. Each 12 contains a watermark fingerprint, unique to my terminal, time-stamped logs, cross-referenced with our internal Git. I've already shared a copy with external counsel and our cyber liability insurer. Jeff's jaw twitched. I didn't wait for him to lie. Icarus wasn't his to pitch. And if he filed any patents this week using its code, we've got a bigger problem, because half of it uses open-source libraries with non-commercial clauses. Now that got them. Even the CFO perked up at non-commercial. That's lawsuit bait with 0 calories. Jeff tried to speak, really tried, but no noise came out. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. A fish gasping on a laminate wood floor. Michelle, one board member said slowly, "Are you formally alleging intellectual property theft by a senior executive?" I met Jeff's eyes, held them. Yes, and I have receipts. The room cracked, chairs shifted. Phones lit up. Eagle whispered to legal. Someone muted their mic and started typing furiously. Jeff, he sat down, for the first time in 5 years, and didn't say a damn word. The next 4 hours unfolded like a crime scene in slow motion. By 1:37 p.m., Jeff had been invited to take a personal leave of absence, which in corporate speak is the HR equivalent of a throat punch followed by a courtesy mint. Security didn't escort him out. They did reset his badge permissions mid-latte. He slammed the mug on the boardroom table and stormed out with the grace of a man whose zipper just caught his soul on the way down. The silence he left behind was thick, sticky, the kind that coats your lungs in unspoken I told you sauce. I didn't gloat. Okay, maybe a little, internally. But externally, I just nodded when asked if I'd be open to helping stabilize the team during this unexpected transition. Sure, Susan. Let me clean up the crime scene while the blood's still wet. Behind the scenes, the condemned queue kicked into high gear. I got a message on the burner phone, you cracked the surface. Now dig. Meet me in Conference F, 3 p.m. Bring nothing. Touch nothing. The message vanished a second later. Conference F was one of those dead zones on the 15th floor. Empty, except during all-hands disaster drills and surprise birthday parties for managers with names like Doug. I walked in expecting mystery. I got a manila envelope and a sticky note that said, last piece, use wisely, we won't get another shot. Inside, a printed transcript of an internal Zoom call, date stamped 6 weeks prior. Participants, Jeff Carrington, outside counsel, and here's the twist, someone from Edge Group. Same shadow firm that bought licensing rights to Icarus under Jeff's direction. But the transcript showed something more. Jeff hadn't just sold my code, bundled it, along with 2 other internal projects from other departments. Projects built by engineers who'd been quietly let go under the pretense of team realignment. Projects that, if monetized externally, would constitute not just corporate espionage, but full-blown securities fraud. Why? Because the company had just used one of those projects, Sentinel X, in the quarterly investor call to inflate projected revenue. Fake innovation, ill stock bump. And Jeff had already cashed out his bonus shares. If this got out, not just his job, not just a lawsuit, indictments. I sat there, envelope open, pulse pounding like bass from a funeral DJ, and thought, this was never just about me. This wasn't a revenge story. It was a heist. I was just the inconvenient witness he forgot to bury. And now I had the blueprint. I walked straight to the CISO office. No hesitation. Slid the transcript under the door. No note, no grandstanding. Just the truth, raw, timed, and traceable. Then I went back to my desk, cleared my browser history, powered down my terminal, and waited. Because when the towers fall, they don't make noise right away. They lean first, then snap. The snap came at 6:42 a.m., not with sirens, not with lawsuits. Came in the form of an all-staff calendar invite titled, Urgent Infrastructure Review and Compliance Alignment Mandatory Attendance Host. Office of General Counsel location. Auditorium A. Cameras on. No recording permitted. That last part. No recording permitted. That's code for, we're about to say things we hope won't make it to Bloomberg. I showed up early. Center seat. Arms crossed. No laptop, no phone. Just that same coffee-stained folder with my initials on the corner. Let them see it. Let them sweat. Jeff didn't show. His nameplate was still on the desk, but I heard through the digital grapevine he'd resigned to pursue emerging opportunities. I also heard he tried to access his retirement account 3 times yesterday and got locked out after a failed 2-factor. The auditorium lights dimmed. Legal took the stage. The head of HR followed. Then, unexpectedly, EO, a man who hadn't stepped foot in our building since the pandemic began. His voice cracked on the first line. There's been a breach of trust. He paused, like that line cost him actual vertebrae. Over the past quarter, several internal systems were manipulated to divert proprietary assets to external entities. These actions were neither authorized nor known to executive leadership, and they represent a gross violation of company ethics and legal boundaries. No names, no finger-pointing. But the tension was nuclear. Someone gasped behind me when the slide came up. Projects compromised. Icarus infrastructure, Sentinel X data ops, Coral Shield, AI R&D, and then came the bombshell. All patents, projections, and public claims involving these projects are being formally retracted pending legal review. Trading of stock options for employees tied to these teams is suspended. Additionally, third-party firm will conduct an internal investigation into all senior management communications over the past fiscal year. Translation: Everyone who laughed on that Q3 call just started checking their pants for landmines. I felt a phone vibrate in my coat pocket. Burner number. One line, it's done, now walk away. Let the cleanup crew feast. But I didn't move. I watched the room turn to static. People whispering. People calculating. Already thinking about what to delete, who to distance from, what Slack DMs could get them black-bagged by compliance. And me, I just sat there. Because revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it settles like ash, quiet, inevitable, permanent. By the time the CEO finished his address, I'd already made up my mind. I wasn't staying. They'd offer me a promotion, probably. Maybe an apology wrapped in a retention bonus. Let them. Built a system so stable it could carry their weight long after I disappeared. But I wasn't going to carry them anymore. They could keep their title. I already had what mattered. My name, my proof, and soon my exit. The box they gave me was too small. I don't mean metaphorically, I mean literally. 10 years of tech manuals, prototype sketches, and stress-eaten granola bars barely fit. I left the ceramic world's okayest engineer mug on my desk. It'd haunt whoever sat there next. As I walked out, badge clipped to the top flap, people parted like I was radioactive. Half smiled like they didn't know whether to congratulate me or call the FBI. The other half didn't make eye contact at all. I took the stairs. Elevator farewells are for cowards and cowards in training. And as the heavy steel door shut behind me for the last time, I realized I didn't feel rage or pride or grief. I felt clean. Say revenge is hollow, that it doesn't bring peace. They've never had a billionaire board member corner them in the hallway to say, I read the report. You should have been VP 2 years ago, and then apologize. They've never seen a man like Jeff, a man who once joked that women in tech were diversity trophies, get perp-walked through the glass lobby by 2 compliance officers and a federal observer with a clipboard. Never watched a stock freeze mid-market because of an ethics halt tied directly to a tampered Git commit with your initials still on it. I did, and I smiled. 3 weeks later, I got a postcard, no return address, just a rooftop sketch and 5 words, next time we build louder. I flushed the burner phone that night, transferred my savings into a new account under a new LLC, Obelisk Systems. The condemned queue, still active, still watching. Don't crash servers for fun. We crash them for justice. And every now and then, someone slips into our inbox with a story like mine or worse. They whisper secrets and send receipts. And sometimes they leave with fire in their hands. Me, I live quiet now. No LinkedIn. No titles. But sometimes, when I miss the chaos, I queue up the Q3 all-hands replay. The version before they pulled it offline. Right at the moment when Jeff calls me replaceable, I pause the video, mute it. Then I lean back, sip my wine, and whisper, "So were your servers, idiot." Thanks for joining the fun, you office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's make your former coworkers sweat.